Today I'm joined by Ross Cooper, Principal at Knight Frank Newcastle, and together we're going to provide a little bit of a snapshot of the local market and our predictions for the rest of 2020. Thanks for joining us, Ross.
Good afternoon, Brent.
So Ross, it's been an interesting few weeks, looking back from where we started, if you want to call it the lockdown, until now. We've certainly shared a journey, but there's a lot of positive signs coming out of it. Do you want to talk us through where the market's at?
There is a lot of positives. Over the last couple of months, it's been an interesting time. Best way to describe it, at the start, I had no idea, as most businesses didn't, the impact that was going to happen. The first couple of weeks, weekly meetings weren't about what new transaction or what deals happen. It was all about what deal was about to fall over or maybe putting them on hold. It was very interesting those first couple of weeks. The month after that, the transactions and the inquiries started to come back in, probably based around the state government implementing or the federal government implementing some of the financial backing for small and medium business. And we started to see things starting to happen again, things being brought off hold, and we've been able to actually get some transactions away, some leasing and sales deals. So definitely well supported by the government and starting to see a little bit more action there.
Yeah, we certainly noticed the dip in inquiry for April, a reduction in 75%, which was pretty dramatic. But in May and the continuation of May, the trajectory is rebounding well. Not quite back to the levels that we were at, but certainly once the stimulus packages were announced and a bit of certainty put back into the market, I'd say the majority of the deals came back, which was great, but we'll touch on those a little bit in a moment. Rent relief. How are landlords and tenants handling rent relief during the pandemic? Getting along?
Look, they are getting along as best they can. Look, it took a framework, and whilst the government discussed about lessee, lessor working together, it took a framework to be put in place and gazetted to actually give people a framework to work around. It has had a massive effect on different businesses, right from effectively closures, so the state government mandated closures for pubs and gyms and those sorts of things, through to A-grade office, state government tenants and those sorts of things with no impact. So and anywhere in between. I'd suggest that retail sector has been heavily affected, just based upon the numbers from our rent roll, our commercial and dealing with our tenants. I'd suggest maybe sort of 50, 60, 70% effect in relation to retail. Medical affected as well, those sort of client face-to-face meetings, all those sorts of things. I'd suggest that's probably somewhere around 50%. Less affected in the industrial market, maybe 20 to 30% type reductions, through to A-grade office, which has had probably the least effect. More heavily affected across B to D, but less effect across the A-grade.
Yeah, sure. We've certainly been having those conversations with clients over the last few weeks, but the framework certainly helped in navigating through some of those difficult circumstances and conversations. Looking forward, the remainder of 2020, as you touched on, we've seen a number of the deals that held over during that uncertainty, or the early stages of uncertainty during lockdown. Majority of them have probably come back and transacted, or on track to, which is great. What's your prediction for the rest of the year?
I think, I think the market is, and with the inquiries definitely come back into the market. I think that it's going to be a bit restrained. It's not going to bounce instantly. It'll be interesting how heavily businesses have been affected by COVID-19, and I think the full effects probably not going to be known until the JobKeeper and the Job Seeker and those financial sort of props come out of the market and business have to stand on their own 2 feet. There's now talk of the job maker policy, but I think that's more based around taxation reforms and energy and all those sorts of lower energy costs and those things. I do see the market continuing to rise and there to be more demand, and like you see, I think you're going to start to see some of those transactions that have been put on hold. We've already got a few of those away. I know that the property that you exchanged up in Watt Street's one, a nice development site there. And I think you're going to see more of those go through to fruition and proceed.
Yeah, certainly. Look, there's going to be some uncertainty factored into some of the decisions, depending on what they are. But overarching that, good quality stock, sites, passive investment, there still seems to be plenty of cash out in the market. We expect them to transact, but overall positive signs coming out of a difficult situation. So, look, thanks very much for joining us, Ross, and we'll talk again soon.
Pleasure. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Brent.